I was caught off guard by a tsunami warning alarm while I was at the tail end of my workday on July 29th. It was about 2:30 in Hawaii. This was just a few days ago. Our family is about to move to Utah, and my phone starts going off and it says there's a tsunami. Just a few days prior, I'd been watching some footage of tsunamis that have happened over the years in different parts of the world. So then I see this on my phone, and I'm the only one at home. My wife is gone with one of our kids and her mom and niece, and our youngest is at a friend's house. We've got dinner in the crock pot. I had totally forgotten that was in there. And we had some important documents I could have scooped up, but I forgot that they even existed. And we live very coastal, a 5-minute walk from the shoreline. So we're on the Big Island. So I just leave immediately and got a hold of my wife. She was in kind of a poor cell service area, and it was difficult to understand her. I thought that we had agreed I would try to meet her more in the direction of where she was, and I was going to pick up our youngest son, which I did, and by the time I picked him up, we were in a safe area, a safe spot to be, a few hundred feet above sea level and 4 miles from the shore. So we were fine. But because I was going to try to meet her, I thought that's what we wanted to do. I ended up driving us into Hilo, right into the heart of the danger zone. We had been given about a 4-hour warning to when the waves were supposed to show up. They were supposed to show up around 7:10 p.m. And the traffic was deadlocked downtown, and you could hear the sirens going off, and our phones continued to blare periodically, letting us know updates and that sort of thing. And as I'm stuck in traffic trying to make my way out of the splash zone, and my wife and I eventually connected again, and we determined, hey, we're just going to meet at the hospital. It's out of the way, and we're just going to be sitting in traffic all the way back. If we try to go to the church that we attend, so let's just stay here and wait it out. So we're sitting there in traffic, and my son keeps asking me, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? I told him, yeah, I believe we're going to be okay. We're making our way out of the splash zone. That's what I was calling it for him. And we're almost there. You know, we have a couple hours before the waves are supposed to show up, and we're going to be well out of the splash zone by then. So I'm not worried about it. But I definitely am experiencing a lot of anticipation. There's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I'm hoping, and realizing that most of this is kind of out of our control. So I said to him, hey, you know what? I'm going to say a prayer, and let's hold hands, and I want you to say a prayer too. So I did, and he did, and part of my prayer was, I was very grateful that our family had been sealed in the temple. we were married in the temple, children born in the covenant. That gave me a lot of peace of mind, and knowing that no matter what happened, whether in that particular situation with the tsunami or whatever's going to come later, because there's always going to be something that eventually takes us into the next world. And that gave me a lot of peace and comfort in that moment. And our boy's prayer was very sincere and very heartfelt, and it was very moving and touching to hear him pray for our safety and just put ourselves in the Lord's hands with this situation. But we're going to do everything we can to get safe, and hopefully this doesn't get too crazy. But you just not knowing. There's something very surreal about having a warning given to you. You're told, okay, we've got this much time until this event happens. And so many natural disasters are sudden and you don't have a warning. But fortunately, in this day and age, we are able to get some warning around tsunamis. And so just to have that advance notice, it just adds an element of build-up to the event. So once we were able to meet up with the rest of the family at the hospital, I felt a lot better. We went inside to the cafeteria, grabbed a bite to eat, and then it was just waiting it out. But here we are. It's just a few days before we're planning to move and realizing that plans might be changing. If this is an impactful event, we are not going to be leaving, and just waiting to see what happens. And ultimately, it was relatively minor. I haven't heard of any catastrophic damage. There was some minor flooding that occurred, but all in all, it was far less impactful than it could have been. The thing is in 1946, there was an earthquake, not terribly far from the one that caused this tsunami, that happened. It was actually less magnitude of an earthquake than this one, slightly less, a little further to the east in the Aleutian Island area. And that caused a tsunami that rose to 55 feet in some places, and it decimated Hilo, Hawaii, when it happened. And so this had every potential to be a catastrophic event. So it was high stakes. I prayed very hard. I'm sure I wasn't the only one that this would be relatively minor. I do believe and feel that I could say I know that God has the ability to change any situation for us. God does not always, but sometimes he does. We read about that in scriptures, and I feel like I've seen it in my own life before, and I feel that we were very much protected in this regard. Regardless of whether God decided to do anything about this one, that's out of my hands, and I'm not going to know about it in this life. But one of the things that struck me during all of this is that a major pending event like a tsunami really causes all of the other challenges in your life to pretty much go away. They, for all intents and purposes, they disappear, because if this is a very impactful event, none of those other things are really going to matter anymore. An event like a tsunami, if you take many steps back and look at it from the big picture, to most of the planet, a tsunami isn't much of an impact. The rest of the animal kingdom, the plant kingdoms, I mean, they can be affected by it, yes, but it's just another day. It happens and then it's over, and that's that. But for humans, we've created quite the complex society for ourselves, and an infrastructure that we rely on that is very vulnerable to these kinds of things. And so it's just kind of interesting to think about. The happenings of nature are very impartial to the human paradigm. All the laws, or maybe it's one law that governs nature and all the events that take place, they don't appear to be built around the idea of what is convenient for humankind. But at the same time, we exist because of the laws. So maybe it's a neutral thing. And I would submit that natural disasters, on the grand scheme of things, are neutral. Because ultimately, all of us find our way into the next life sooner or later, be it through a natural disaster and we call it a disaster, right? But it's a natural event. Ultimately, it's a natural event that's going to take everybody. There were a lot of emotions that I experienced on July 29th, 2025. I experienced fear. I experienced worry. I experienced a sense of urgency. I experienced such gratitude when I was able to reunite with each of my family members. And then relief when we heard on the news that the worst of the waves had happened and that the airport had reopened. Once we heard that, we made our way back to the house and spent the night at home. But I will say this, the tsunami warning and the subsequent evacuation that was required made our stay here in Hawaii that much more memorable. And not likely to ever forget that one. That's for sure. I, for one, am very grateful for the experience and thrill ride that it is to be a human in this world. It seems like we really don't have an opportunity to get bored. We still do sometimes, but wow. What a neat experience Earth life is. that's it for now.